Hello everyone, Tracy Jackson, aka Tax Savvy Nurse, here for another video. In this video, I'm going to talk about how I passed part one of the Enrolled Agent exam. Yay! So finally, got around to taking my exam, and I did a video before of how I passed part three. And so just to kind of continue everything, because I did it a little different this time with a whole different course, I wanted to share my study process for passing part one. And then I will eventually do a video, hopefully soon, for part two. I want to try to get this finished up. But I did get some questions from people asking what I was using again, and what my study tips for passing. So I figured I'd do another video. All right, so cool. So the difference is last time I used Gleam as my study course, and it was okay, but when I went to go start study for part one, for some reason I just wasn't grasping the information. So I don't know, the lectures felt like it was more so just reading the text to me rather than giving me expanding on the information, to kind of help explain things, right? So I was kind of getting frustrated with why I wasn't getting it. So that's just my personal thing, but I'm sure many people have had, still have great success with Gleam, and actually that's what I used for passing the part three. So I just kind of wanted to do something different. A friend of mine on Facebook actually shared with me to try Fast Forward Academy. So I decided to use this, and I really like the flow of this program. It's so simple to follow, and I feel like it gives a good explanation on the lectures. So there was a couple reasons I liked it. So I'm going to walk you guys through I studied the same kind of way. My process is very similar. But guys, remember, this is just my way that I study. Everyone's different, but the course is the same. If you purchase, whether you purchase Gleam or whether you purchase Fast Forward Academy, the process, the material is still there. It's just how you go about studying it and absorbing the material. So I'm going to show you what worked for me, and hopefully some of the tips would help. So what I did was, when I started, you can click on study. All right, so we're going to go into study. When you first get the course here, everything is red. So these little circles are red, and it means that you're not ready yet to, you haven't went through that section yet. So what I did was I'm very methodical when I go through things. I don't like to be all over the place. That's why I like the flow of this, because I can go in order and I can see how I'm progressing with the colors. And then my goal was to turn everything green before I moved to the next section. Okay. So what I did was I started with taxpayers and dependents. These are all the sections. So you can collapse them and see that each section has different topics, some more than others. Okay. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sections. Okay. So taxpayers and dependents is the first section. What I did was I started with the very first part of section 1. And what I like about this is when you click on filing status, which is the first part, you can click on, you'll see down here, highlight what information is available. So you can see that it will take you to the textbook part where it explains the filing status. And then there's also quiz questions, which there's quiz questions for, of course, each section. So what I did was I didn't start with the textbook. I'll tell you where I started. Step number 1 for me was going to the flash notes for taxpayer and dependents section. So I went to the flash notes, and you can go by chapter. So I really like this. It will give you kind of like the flash notes or cards for that section. So taxpayers and dependents, I will click that and I just leave it on all. And then you can see that there's flashcards kind of giving you a blurb about each little topic here that's important for that section. So I really like that part, because I absorb information in short chunks. So it'll give me the little name of it, and then a short definition. Okay, so that's the flash notes part that I like. And then you can also, which is cool, you can add your own cards. I forget where to do that, but you can add your own flash notes as well. Flashcards. I'll show you. There's another way to do it, but so I would do this part first before each section. Then I will go to study. Then I will go to this section and I will click on the parts individually, and then I will go to the textbook. Okay. Now, sometimes I didn't really read the full part, but I did start here and read as much as I could of the textbook. And hold on one second. My things. Okay. So you'll read through this, and you can pay attention to the bold parts or the tips, or really you want to read through as much of this as you can, or all, because it's not a lot. It's just a couple pages for each little section. And then you'll go back to study. So once you read it, you go back to study, click on that section, and then you take the quiz. Okay. In the quiz, I'm going to go ahead and start this one because I was just playing with it. So then you'll have the questions. The reason why I like this versus Gleam is because Gleam's tests were timed, and also the explanations weren't as good to me of the answers. And then also I like to also look at, so let's just click on, I'm not reading this, so I don't know the answer. So I'm gonna randomly pick. So if you pick the wrong answer, it will pop up over here with the explanation of why it's right, what answer is right and why. And then you can also go back to the reference of the textbook by just clicking here. Like you're like, okay, I totally don't get that. Let me go back and review this, and you can click on it right here, and it pops up the same textbook reading that you can go back and review again. So I love the flow of that. And then let me see here. Where'd the explanation go? Oh, there it is. So this little eyeglass over here is will pop up the explanation again. And then I also, on some of the harder topics, I like to look here. I love this. Like people have asked questions, and a lot of these are recent. Like it's not like old stuff, but you'll see conversations of people who have questions, and some people had the same questions that I had. And you can click on and see what the moderators are, how they are, answering their questions. So for some of the topics, that was really helpful for me, and I love this feature. So the explanation and the discussions, it's just it's a very simple flow to it. So you go through, you answer the questions, and you can also, the other thing I like is you can save and exit. So it's not to where like if you start, because I would be stopping and starting constantly. I just wanted to go through the, the questions. I didn't necessarily want to be timed. So you can click save for later, or you can just finish and complete this part. So I'm going to click finish and review. It will give you a review, and then you can continue back to study. So very, very, very simple to feel out this process. Okay. So the next one, I'm trying to find one that has a lecture. Okay. So you go through one by one until you answer all of the quiz questions correctly, and then it'll turn to green. So the other thing is, let me go back. So the other thing is when I'm answering the questions, and let me go to, let me just pull up a quiz. All right, so when I go through the questions, I'm a writer as well. So I like to write. I just learn every way pretty much. But I just like to write, and it helps me to remember. So let's just answer this, and okay, I just randomly got that right. Woohoo! All right. So if you were to get it wrong, what I would do is I would make sure you read all of the choices, because some of them are correct. Some of the times 2 of them are correct, but there's one that's more correct. And then I would also make sure I read through all of that, read through the explanation. And I don't know if you guys can see, but I also write. So for each section, I will write the title of that section, and then highlight, key points that I want to remember. So I do that for each section. So, and I'll show you about the lecture part. So again, I start with flash notes, then I go to the book and read the book part, just the short part for that small section. Then I go to the quiz, and then based off of the quiz, I brush up on the parts that I didn't understand by rereading through the book, and or just writing down the things that I didn't know. So it'll give you the explanation, and then I will write down the things that I didn't know. So that's really the flow of how I did each section individually. So once I got a hang of filing status, then I would click on dependents. And then for dependents, I would do the same thing. Go to textbook and follow the same process. So I'm going to go back because I'm going to show you some of them. And I loved the parts that had videos. That was probably my favorite part. So you can see on this third section here, this one has a lecture. So it will highlight which parts have a lecture. So you click lecture, and it will show you that there's a 16-minute video for the lecture. So you launch that. And I really did like his lectures because he would kind of tell you, he would say, okay, well, don't get frustrated with this section. You just kind of need to know the basics, the overview of what it's talking about. But, they're not going to test you on every detail so my brain is very detail oriented. And I would tend to go to studying every little part of the detail. And then when questions would come up about the overview, like the overall, the overall idea of the certain credit or, like a simple question, then those would be the ones that I would, struggle with. Like, oh, I just didn't pay attention to that part. So I like that he kind of actually gave examples. As you go through here, there's
married, filing,
there's little blurbs of information. So, again, small chunks of information is what I like. So I like that he would give bullet points. They would give examples. So I love the lecture parts as well. Okay. So in that case, when there was a lecture, I would do the flash notes first, but then I would watch the lecture. I didn't really go through the textbook in as detail. I'm just being honest. I didn't read the textbook word for word because, again, I learned more by hearing the information and then writing notes and then going through all of the sample questions. Now, the quiz questions, I went through every single one, probably multiple times until I got them right and understood why they were right. I focused on that more so than I did the textbook. So that's how I did it. So that's pretty much it and how I went through everything. Then at the end, I wanted to show something actually before I do that about the notes cards. Some way you can make note cards. I don't remember where it's at. It's not under, it's probably under here. I just don't remember how. Let me see. Yeah, I just don't remember. But there's a lot of cool features in here. You can also just go ahead and click on the lectures if you just want to see what all the sections that have lectures. So you can do that. You can also just go directly to the book and then go through the book by section. So however you want to do it, you can explore, but that was just my process for biting off small chunks of the information. So after I went through every one, and again, it was very key for me to actually write down notes as I was watching the lectures. So even, I don't know if you guys can see this, even on the itemized deduction sections or what income counts as income. I wrote a lot of information down and I would go back and review those notes as well. So I have notes on literally every section that are highlighted with key points that I wasn't necessarily strong in. But that's just how I did it. So after I went through, you can see up here there's a practice exam. I took it maybe twice, and I took it maybe 2 or 3 times, and then I went through every question that I got wrong. You can see that it says this is time. So this is a timed exam. It's 100 questions, the similar to how the test is set up, and you just go through the questions. At times, I think you get 3.5 hours or something like that. So I definitely would recommend. I mean, you don't want to go schedule this test until you actually do several of the practice exams. And they say here that I was trying to get at least 70. I kind of came close, to be honest. I didn't score very well because I was like half asleep trying to just, I was more so studying rather than trying to, because it's like 3.5 hours to take one of these practice exams. So I went through it, but I don't think I did try my best. So I barely made 70, to be honest. I think I did better on the actual exam than I did the practice exam. So anyway, that's just the reality of it. It's a lot of studying. It's a lot of going through the information, and you're going to have to go over it probably several times. So, but it tells you to try to get 70, at least 80 before you schedule your test. That's what it says. If you want to be really, 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 really ready. So that's it. So again, if you want to use the Fast Forward Academy, that's the flow that I use. I went through the flash notes first, and then the book for each section, each individual section, and then the quiz. If there was a lecture for it, then I focused on the lecture, the flash notes, then the lectures, then, taking notes as I go along, and then taking every one of the quiz questions. So that's pretty much that. If you have any questions, let me know. You can make a comment below. I'm going to post this on YouTube. So comment below if you guys are studying for your exam, if you've already passed your part 1 exam, and maybe you're going on to part 2. So I'm actually going to part 2, which is my last one finally, and supposedly the hardest one because we're talking about businesses. So I'm going to do the same thing. Let me see. Yeah, I'm going to do this. So as you can see, remember I said it starts out blank. So I haven't gone through this. So it's, instead of them being green, they are gray. So I'm going to start here with business entities. I'm going to click on business entity overview, and there's a lecture here. So I'm going to click on this lecture. After I review the flash notes, I'm going to click on this lecture, and I'm going to watch this 6-minute lecture. And then I'll go over to take the quiz, okay? I'll probably review the pages on the textbook as well. So you can click here and see. So it's a very simple flow to it. If you break down the sections in small chunks, it's easier than instead of trying to just read the whole textbook. You want to break off little chunks. So if this was helpful, let me know. And if you have any feedback of how you use Fast Forward Academy to study, let me know. I would love to hear that because I'm going to go back to studying. So any tips that you have, I will be glad to hear those as well. So I will see you guys on the next video. I hope to be taking my part 2 in another 6 weeks or so. And if you guys are scheduling to take your part 2, or just, let me know how you guys are doing in the comments. And feel free to share this with anyone that you may find it helpful for. So I'll see you guys next time. Take care.